So there is a very clear cut ecosystem that does function. It may sound like a conspiracy theory. There is there are instances where Dalits are being discriminated against. It does happen. And
always this barrier around this particular art form, Carnatic music, that it belongs to a particular sect of people.
it is true that a large number of the singers, the performers, as well as the audience, it is true that they belong to the Brahmin community.
Or is he just trying to attract light and he's trying to get some popularity, or what do you think, honestly?
Well, I think my views on Mr. TM Krishna are quite well known. um, TM Krishna, for all his talk, how many people outside of the Brahmin community has he himself taught?
Is it just because of the conservativeness of the society that it didn't reach the other class of people? Is it because of the so-called Brahminical dominance?
As a gift to the god, you will give some
Garland,
fruit, you will give some
fruits,
flowers.
garland. Yeah.
Why are you giving money now?
I'm not giving money now.
You don't put money in the plate of the archaka?
No, I put money in the plate of the Archaka for a
Ah,
different reason, because though they are deprived of food, they
don't
are
give,
deprived of their.
give fruits, give some rice to the archaka.
No, it doesn't work that way, right?
Exactly. I don't think anybody has a problem with him performing at Uru Rolcott or anything of the sort. I think the problem that the Carnatic
Ma'am,
music industry has,
the
you have to allow me to answer. I don't need to, believe in Lord Rama to be able to sing a Tyagaraja Kirtana. Then people do have a problem with that.
hello and welcome to Chanakya's Face Off. Today we have with us senior journalist Ms. Sandhya Ravishankar to speak to us about the other side of Mr. TM Krishna, a very eminent musician who has sparked recent controversy in due to his award from the Chennai Music Academy, the Sangeeta Kalanidhi Award, which has sparked a lot of controversies. So we have some interesting information from Ms. Sandhya Ravishankar. Let's get to hear it from her. Vanakkam and welcome, ma'am.
Vanakkam. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So it was a very, very catchy title, TM Krishna's link with the Muslim Brotherhood. So before we get into the aspects of it, I want to know your true intentions as to why you wanted to bring it out. And what
Well,
element has it got with the recent Sangeeta Kalanidhi issue and the row that's happening?
Well, we are in a sort of a disproportionate war, and this has been going on for a very long time. In fact, I think it's been going on since the 80s, perhaps even before that. What is happening is that it's a war it's a soft power led war, in the sense that there is a very clear agenda to destroy the native culture, tradition, which form the architecture of Indian society as a whole. And if you're asking me who's waging this war, well, it's definitely forces from the West. And if you see, largely this is being done by the former Clinton administration. This is when it became very big, even though there were some efforts before the Clinton administration to sort of attack and control India using soft power. It actually gained a lot of prominence, and it was very well funded, starting from the Bill Clinton administration, and it continues till date, because it is very clear that with people like Hillary Clinton, all of them, they have a very vested interest in attempting to control India and our rulers through the use of such soft power.
Mhm.
So there is a pattern worldwide where the multiple fronts are being used to funnel money to the, what they call the brown sahibs in India, Indians who work very closely with these
The Sahibs who
perpetrators
never
of.
left. Huh?
Exactly. And, they work very closely with the Western powers and they work against our interests. Of course, they get a lot of monetary compensation. They get compensation in terms of recognition, in terms of many awards. So there is a very clear cut ecosystem that does function. It may sound like a conspiracy theory to a lot of people. And I don't blame them because initially, when I first started hearing about all this, I thought it was a conspiracy theory as well.
Mhm.
But when you join the dots, when you look at the larger picture, and when you see, you can start to actually predict who is going to say what is the narrative that's going to be picked up, and what is the end game. Once you start seeing all this, it becomes very evident that this is not a conspiracy theory. It is actually happening before us, in front of us. It's unfolding before our very eyes, and it's unfortunate that we are part. We are not. Many of us are not able to see it. This is precisely the reason why I had done a little bit of digging into TM Krishna and his links with various these sort of NGOs which are linked to the Muslim Brotherhood as well as to the Jamaati Islami. So it's not a targeting of Mr. Krishna as an individual. It
Mhm.
is more of a targeting of him and the role he plays as a potential or suspected brown sahib who is working with powers outside of India which are inimical to India's interests.
So, what kind of organizations? I mean, from your video, I know that it's a Hindu organization fighting for the rights of Hindus, and you have mentioned the word Muslim Brotherhood. Totally contradicting. And he's just in an advisory position. And what is the role that he's actually playing there? And what does this organization actually do in India? Any? Can you
So
give
this is
us
an
more?
organization called Hindus for Human Rights,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a very cleverly named organization because the person who has co-founded it is a lady by name Sunita Vishwanathan, and as her name implies, she seems to be a born into the Hindu fold, and it it appears as if the organization is a group of Hindus who are very passionate about human rights, but it's very far from the truth. If you look at the people who are on the advisory board, if you look at the people who are, the members of that organization, a lot of them will actually be, Christians, and a bunch of them are Muslim as well.
But it's a
And
Hindu organization named as a Hindu
Yes,
organization.
it's called Hindus for Human Rights.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, when you go through that, you're like, okay, what's going on here? So that's your first red flag that comes up. TM Krishna, actor Swara Bhaskar, all of them are part of the advisory board of this. There are a lot of other, what we like to call usual suspects, people who are part of the Brown Sahib network, who, who work with Western powers and they
Breaking
uh,
India forces, should I say?
yeah, I mean, I feel that's a very, it's a word that's got a negative, it's a phrase that's got a negative connotation now.
Mm-hmm.
But I would just say, people are working against India's interests, and or the brown sahibs, whatever you want to call it. So these, like people like Martin McQuan, all of them, I mean, they have a documented history of working against India's interests. So they are all part of the advisory board as well. And yeah, it's this Hindus for Human Rights has been working very closely with a bunch of organizations to basically, it has a fourfold narrative. Okay, so there
Mm-hmm.
are four narratives that this particular organization pushes. One is caste, that is, to be more specific, the Dalit narrative. So basically saying that, Dalits are being discriminated against outside of India as well.
What people
And
like Tenmodi Soundararajan from Equality
exactly.
Labs are okay. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So they work very closely with equality labs, and they have worked
Mm-hmm.
very closely to bring about the anti-caste legislation in the US, in some of
Mm-hmm.
the states. So that is one. The second thing is about how, there is an impending genocide, or there is already a genocide of Muslims that is taking place in India. So genocide of minorities, not specifically Muslims, but genocide of minorities. Now, I really don't know where that genocide is happening because, from what I understand, there is no genocide in India. There are stray incidents of violence, but there are stray incidents of violence against people of any religion. It's not. It's a law and
Uh,
order issue. It's not a
across
genocide.
the world, it's
Exactly.
happening. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is the second narrative. The third narrative is about this whole construct of um, persecution of religious minorities. So, especially Muslims, or Islamophobia, if you want to call it that. So, this is another very key narrative that this Hindus for Human Rights they push. Okay. And the fourth one, and I've just taken notes.
And
So, this should
Hindus for human rights are seriously bothered about people who are Islamophobic.
Yes. So they claim that, thanks to the BJP government being in power, there's been a rise in Hindu extremism, Hindu terror, and there's a rise in Islamophobia, and they are battling against
Have they
all
been
of this.
specifically quoting any instances or incidents that's happening, or is it
Yeah,
just
yeah.
a
So yeah, all of these narratives are interlinked. The last one is about Kashmir, about
mm,
how Kashmir has. I mean, there is Islamophobia, and minorities are being suppressed in Kashmir. So these are the four key narratives that are being pushed by Hindus for Human Rights. And if you look at any of the organizations, any of the people who are working against India's interests, if you see their narratives, all of these four narratives will be present. And these are the main fault lines that are used to target India with. Because what can you say? Like, if you say that Dalits are being discriminated against, right? So you can say, okay, they're not being discriminated against, but it's how do you prove it? You can prove something happened. How can you prove something didn't happen?
I
Right?
get it.
So it's a very very smart, clever kind of way of attacking a culture, and in the process denigrating the entire religion, the entire culture, the entire tradition, everything. So you don't just say that yes, there are stray incidents where Dalits are discriminated against. um, we're not denying that. I don't think anybody in India will deny that there are instances where Dalits are being discriminated against. It does happen. And how do we fix that? That is something that we as a society have to look into and fix ourselves, right?
Right.
But can you throw the baby out with the bathwater? Can you say that just because there are some incidents of Dalit discrimination against Dalits, can you say that the entire Hindu religion is flawed and false and based on wrong premises? I don't think that's correct at all. It's like saying, you know, if
It's not
let's
correct
say.
with any religion for that matter. Yeah.
Exactly. Can you say that the whole of Christianity is bad because there are Dalit Christians who are being discriminated against? You can't say that, right? Can
Right.
you vilify entire Islam just because a few of them are indulging in terrorism? You can't. So it's why are you doing that to the Hindu religion, right? So this is the basic premise. So you pick the fault lines and then you make it about the entire religion itself, and you denounce it, you denigrate it to such a point that Hindus themselves start to, you know, abuse their own religion and stop believing in their own religion.
I understand. Coming back to TM Krishna, a very, very renowned artist and a very, very talented artist. Even people who are, a little criticizing his way of, approach towards the art, even they have given certificates that he's a very great artist, and he's trying to take this art form to the next level, bringing it. There is always this barrier around this particular art form, Carnatic music, that it belongs to a particular sect of people. a particular community of people. And Mr. TM Krishna has been from the right from the beginning, has been trying to break that barrier. And probably, he might have thought that, Hindus, the name sounded really well, right? Hindus for humanity or what?
No,
So yeah, whatever. So it sounded really good to him. And probably, do you think he got carried away and he got himself into this thing? Or because I'm sure you, as an observer, you will agree with me that what he's been trying to do inside the field of Carnatic music is commendable. Or do you feel otherwise? Or is he just trying to attract light and he's trying to get some popularity? Or what do you think, honestly?
well, I think my views on Mr. TM Krishna are quite well known. Um, I think I think he has been indulging in unnecessary vilifying of an art form, which is integral to Hinduism, which is
Mm.
integral to our Indian culture and society. It's one of the last surviving art forms, and it is imperative that we protect it. Now, if you ask me why I disagree with Mr. Krishna, he does talk about casteism in Carnatic music, and it is true in the sense that it is true that a large number of the singers, the performers, as well as the audience, it is true that they belong to the Brahmin community. That is number one. Nobody is denying that. Now, number two, does that mean that they are excluding people from other castes from learning the art form or from performing or from excelling in it? There is no evidence or nothing to suggest that that is the case. In fact, people like Bombay Jayashree, Chitramina Ravikiran, all of them have been going to rural areas, to lesser privileged areas, and teaching students, youngsters from these backgrounds. Now, if you are if you're a casteist Brahmin, you are not going to do that. Number three, TM Krishna, for all his talk, how many people outside of the Brahmin community has he himself taught? Has he created as, great singers or musicians? Has he done that? No evidence to show that either. And number four, what this is a very interesting history that was told to me by one of the first and very well known Bharatanatyam scholars and Bharatanatyam dancers herself. Her name is Mrs. Dr. Avanti Meduri. Now she has done a thesis on this. She has done her research. What she says is that Carnatic music and dance was not appropriated by the Brahmin community. What happened was that the Devadasi community, which used to traditionally practice Carnatic music and dance, they taught people from the Brahmin community. And we're talking about just around the independence time, right? So it is at this time that the kings, once the British came in, the kings, many of them lost their relevance in society. They were not able to continue to patronize the Devadasi system. They were not able to, support the upkeep. They were not able to take care of the Devadasi system, that is the singers and the dancers from the Devadasi
People who
community.
are dedicated for the growth of art forms. Yeah.
Exactly. As well as the Natuanas,
Mm.
who are the men of the community.
Mm.
So that once the British came and colonized India, that whole system sort of started collapsing, and the Devadasis and that community started moving into extreme poverty. So as a result, many of them wanted to move out of that cycle. Of course, there were a lot of them who were exploited. They were pushed into
Mm.
prostitution and all of that. It is an unfortunate part of our history, and it's something we must acknowledge. But what actually also happened is that many of them wanted to move out of that, and many of the men of that community, they did not want their women to continue to sing and dance. So what happened was, that's when you have a bunch of wealthy Brahmin women who came and said, okay, we must not lose out, we must protect this art form. And they learnt it from the Devadasi women who knew these art forms. They learned whatever they could from them. And then they set up, institutions like Kalakshetra, which was set up by Rukmini Devi Arundel. And then the Carnatic music, the singers started teaching more and more students who started coming to them. So there was a process of making these art forms more acceptable to a very conservative traditional public, because remember, this is a we're talking about a time
No,
when women are not really out in the public domain.
no, I agree to it, but is it just because of the conservativeness of the society that it didn't reach the other class of people? Or is it because of the so-called Brahminical dominance that they didn't
Actually,
want this art form to go to the other people?
no, that's not true at all, because
Mhm.
more than the caste issue here, it had to
Mm.
do with money. So at that time, those who could, it was a very expensive affair to, even today it is, if you want to learn Carnatic music or you want to learn Bharatanatyam, it is
And
very expensive. It's only people who can afford it and who have the interest. And remember, this is very intensive training. This is not like, it's not like 2 hours a week or 4 hours a week of class. It's not just that. You're going to have to, you may have like 4 hours a week, 4 hours a week of class, but every day you have to sit and practice. And unless you have the passion, unless you have that natural God given talent in you, you are not going to come up, right? It's a very small, very niche field. And I speak as someone who learned Carnatic music when I was very young. I gave it up because I was not very interested in it. It is just something that, you parents ask you to learn for a bit. But I didn't
it's
follow it.
probably it's a part of the traditional system. Like most families, the kids they
Some
start learning
families do.
Carnatic
I don't
music.
know. I mean, maybe my parents thought that I would benefit. Maybe they thought I'll become a singer. I don't know. But whatever. The point is, at that time they could afford it. They put me in the class. I learned for a few years. Then I moved out.
No,
But
where come the question of affordability comes in? I know it's a very, I mean, the point that you talked about affordability, I don't deny that. But who started this affordability business? Because as you rightly mentioned, until the Devadasis were carrying out this tradition, the point of affordability never came in. So
no,
only
it was.
after
It
passing
was.
it, no,
Devadasis
where?
had. They held land. They were given grants of land, and they were living off that land. Somebody has to pay them, right?
No, yeah, that was the original system, right? The kings, they had given lands for every purpose. They gave lands to Brahmins, they gave lands to Devadasis, they gave lands for temples, so they gave lands for everybody. So that's a separate part to it. But they never took money for spreading the art.
That is the point. So,
But when it
okay,
when it came out of them, but
let
when
me
it moved out from them, why did it become a monetary thing?
no, it didn't become a monetary thing afterwards. It was always, it's like this. I'll if you want me, if I'm somebody who's very good with, if I'm a singer, right? I'm able to sing beautifully, and I am able to compose, etc. And that is my passion. That is my life, right? Now, if you're going to say that you have to earn your own living, you have to go work, earn your money, I am not going to have any time left to actually focus on my singing and to teach people and to help spread the art. That is the reason King said, let me finish. That is
Mm,
the reason the king said, I will give you grants of land so that you focus only on the art. That is your role in society. You don't need to worry about food. So I
understood.
will give you land so that you land will be cultivated, paddy will be grown, whatever xyz will be grown, and you will get the income that comes out of that land. You will get it, so that you don't have to worry about food, you don't have to worry about clothes, you don't have to worry about anything. Just focus on your art. This is precisely why kings gave gifts of land to various types
Agree.
of people,
Agree.
including the
Mhm.
devadasis. The same, it is the same case when it comes to when the art form moves from the devadasis to the brahmin community, because the brahmin community that took over, that learned from them and took over, they had the money. They were able to, they were not worried about having to earn money and eat. So they were able to take over, they were able to set up institutions, they were able to learn the compositions, give it the full, 100% energy that was required to
Ma'am,
uh,
sorry to
learn.
interrupt you, but let me put this way. I agree to the point that they were having the monetary aspects to take this art form to the next level. But where was this all performed? In
I
temples,
don't,
right?
originally, after that it
Originally,
moved
yeah.
to sabhas, then the
Exactly,
sabhas came
exactly. That's a point I'm coming to. So prior to the Sabas concept coming into picture, it was all because when this art form is so much dedicated, don't mistake me for disagreeing with you on this point, but this art form is very closely related to the tradition, culture, and the Hindu religious beliefs of this land.
Hmm,
Bharatland. And
correct.
this has always been kept very close to the temples. Taking it away from temples and moving it to sabhas
Where
have
was it before
brought
the
in.
temple? We can keep going back in time, there is no end to it.
No,
It
no,
doesn't make
I'm just trying to understand because the
even
concept of
today,
sabhas and
even today
the
it is
concept of
performed in
sabhas
temples.
and monetary benefits associated with singing in a sabha
Even
has
today,
come in
even
recent days, I
today,
would say, right?
even today, it is performed in temples. It is
No,
not
no,
that it
it's
is not.
no, no, absolutely. It is still performed in temples. But my point is, say, for example, previously, in the
Madam, I will
original
ask you
form.
one question.
Yes,
Earlier,
please.
what did you, when you, earlier back in the day, when you went to a temple, what would you give to the, as a gift to the god? You will give some
Garland,
fruit, you will give some
fruits,
flowers.
garland. Yeah.
Why are you giving money now?
I'm not giving money now.
You don't put money in the plate of the archaka?
No, I put money in the plate of the archaka for a
Ah,
different reason because though they are deprived of food, they
don't
are
give, no,
deprived of
give
their.
fruits,
uh,
give fruits, give some rice to the archaka.
no, it doesn't work that way, right?
Exactly. So society changes,
No, no,
civilization
no.
changes,
This is no,
things
no, no,
change.
no. The concept is different, right? See,
No,
when
no.
I mean, I agree with
That's a
you to the
discussion about the Sabha system because I'm not an expert. You really should ask a Carnatic expert
No,
about the
the
Sabha
reason is Mr. TM Krishna was a person who was very vocal about all these things. So that's
system.
the
What did he
reason I'm
say?
asking. No, he
What?
was he was completely against the domination of a particular caste in Carnatic music. He wanted to take it outside. In fact, he went and performed in uh, places where we call them slums today, but in places where people are traditionally
Wonderful. I
not
mean,
used.
I'm not against any of that. I'm very happy he did that.
No, is it
In fact,
because
I
he's
think more
being?
people should
No,
do
the
it.
reason is he being targeted for all those things and it's still trying to
Why
be
should he?
conserved?
I don't think anybody has a problem with him performing at Uru Rolcott or anything of the sort. I think the problem that the Carnatic
Ma'am,
music industry has,
the
you have to allow me to answer.
sorry, go ahead.
So I think the problem that people have with TM Krishna from the Carnatic music world is that he has cast aspersions on an entire community in an incorrect way, and number two, that he has sought to divorce devotion from Carnatic classical music, and they have a problem with that.
Oh, everybody has problem with that. You must remember that when Mr. Unnikrishnan was denied chance to perform in the same music academy because he went and sought and he was performing in
Yeah, even MS Subbulakshmi was denied a chance. She taught the music academy a lesson, rightly so.
yeah, because they performed in cinemas, right? So that was one of the things earlier days, and
Whatever. I
then
mean,
no,
she
no,
taught them
I'm
a lesson, and good for her, man. I'm very happy that she did that. More
no,
power
but
to her. That
what is this man doing? So the entire music fraternity is against. I don't understand that part of it.
well, I just explained to you that if people, if he's going to say things like, I don't need to believe in Lord Rama to be able to sing a Tyagaraja Kirtana, then people do have a problem with that because Tyagaraja Kirtanas are outpourings of devotion for Lord Rama. You can't say, I
So
don't believe in Rama. I can sing about a stick. I can sing about, a pillar.
no,
And
it's an art form, and he's delivering it precisely, picture
well,
perfect.
if look, I'm telling you, I am here to talk about my article, which is about
Mm.
Hindus for human rights. and TM
And
Krishna's.
this is all related to human
This is
Hindus and
Carnatic
human
music.
rights.
I'm not an expert on it. I can only tell you what I have heard from people in the Carnatic music fraternity.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Sure, that's fine. I'll conclude this with my last question. I don't want to deviate the topic here. So, the involvement of Mr. TM Krishna in such organizations, which are definitely, I mean, which are working hands with anti-national or anti-Hindu agenda, appears to be a planned one or a planted one.
Can you repeat your question? Sorry.
My question is his involvement in these organizations. Do you think he's made a very calculated move and he has associated himself with such organizations to work against, or do you think it could be a very genuine interest of him in humanity and he's just got planted in it? What do
I
you think
honestly
about it?
don't know. He is the best person to answer this question. I just know he's on the advisory board because the website says so. If he's not associated with them, or if he wishes to disassociate with them in the future, that's entirely his call, and I'd love to hear from him on that.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sandhya, ma'am. Thanks for taking time and talking to us.
Thank you
Yes.
very much for having me.